welcome to another episode of Fire Up. I hope you guys are fired up like I am tonight.
Good evening, everyone.
Look at, we even have Cyberuski. What's going on? Well, I got to welcome my awesome panel. I have Mr. Samir and Mr. Taylor. Welcome, guys.
Great to be on, yes.
Pleasure, as always.
So, we're going to start out with, the title says it all-star game recap. Candy, my panel doesn't seem fired up. Uh-oh. Well, give it time, Cyberuski. So, all-star game recap. For all of you that either didn't watch it or don't know, it actually kind of ended in a tie, and it had the first swing off to determine the winner. It averaged 7,185,000 viewers Tuesday night on Fox. It was Fox's most watched telecast since the Super Bowl, and the network's best audience for a Tuesday night since last year's Game 4 of the World Series. However, it was a 3.5% decrease from the 2024 game, and the second lowest for the Midsummer Classic. So, guys, your thoughts on the All-Star game, what you thought of it, what you thought of the swing off, because I'll be honest with you, it's kind of I have to say I was actually part of history, because I was in attendance for the only game that actually did completely end in a tie, where they didn't have the swing off, and that was back in Milwaukee years ago when they actually ran out of pitchers, and that's why it actually ended in a tie. But so, Samir, start with, it was in your backyard. Tell us about, did you go to any of the events? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I actually did. I spent a lot of my day on Sunday in All-Star Village. I thought it was pretty neat. Terry Pendleton was there signing autographs. Unfortunately, I was not able to get a reservation in time to meet him. He's pretty popular within the Braves fan base, so as you would expect, reservations for that filled up pretty quickly. I was at the Home Run Derby on Monday night, which was pretty cool. I was really looking forward to seeing Ronald in it, but unfortunately, he wasn't able to participate. But it was cool seeing Matt Olson there. Kind of got off to a slow start. Went on a little heater towards the end, but was just a couple of home runs short of moving on. I thought going in, I thought O'Neal Cruz was going to win it, but that didn't happen. Cal Raleigh won it. Was still pretty cool though overall. But I wasn't able to go to the All-Star game, but I feel like the festivities involved were pretty cool. My favorite part about it was the tribute they did for Hank Aaron after the sixth inning. The kind of light show they did on the field honoring his 715th home run. More specifically, on the day 7/15. Game itself was pretty good. I think Dave Roberts overall did a terrible job managing it. We all love Freddie Freeman, but I think it was a joke that he was able to come off the field to a standing ovation, but Ronald Acuna wasn't. He was subbed out for Fernando Tatis without getting one in his own ballpark. And then on top of that, you had Shohei Ohtani leading off. That's Ronald's spot. Like, read the room, Dave. Okay? So I feel like with that, and then for the swing off, I thought it was different. I think it was the first time they did it. And then for the swing off, you had three players in the NL East, but you didn't have Acuna or Olsen in it, which I thought was like kind of a read the room thing. But overall, I thought it was pretty cool. Wish we could have had it 4 years ago, but better late than never, I guess.
Taylor, your thoughts?
Well, first off, Shohei Ohtani was actually supposed to lead off because he was the number one star in Major League Baseball. Of course, the NL jumped off to a great start against Tarek Skubal. Of course,
Yeah.
the NL's offense was very, very powerful. Just too much for Tarek Skubal to overcome. Of course, he made a couple mistakes or a few, but whatever. But the NL jumped out to a 6-0 lead. But the AL actually came back to tie it up in the ninth inning. Stephen Kwan producing that final run for the AL in the top of the ninth against Mets closing pitcher Edwin Diaz. Even as a Tigers fan, I respect Stephen Kwan. He can run fast. He can leg out balls on the ground and get on base. And he's a machine. And as far as the swing off goes, it's kind of, I picture it just like the NHL shootout. It's actually fun. And by the way, the All-Star game is just exhibition. But what I was amazed about the swing off, Kyle Schwarber hitting 3 home runs out of 3 swings. That is incredible. Kyle Schwarber is a home run machine. That's all I have.
Yeah. I mean,
Was-
you got to
was-
respect him. I just still kind of wish we could have had either Ronald or Matt in that swing off, but it is what it is. The National League got to win, which is always good. And for a while there, the American League had dominated the All-Star game, and it seems like the National League has won, I believe, 2 of the last 3. They won in 23. They won this year. Did they win last year? Who won last year? The American League?
I think the American League.
Yeah.
I think.
I think I couldn't quite remember 100%, but I think they all did. Yeah. But question for you, Samir. Are you saying that Ronald Acuna Jr. should have led off, or are you just favoring him just because you're an Atlanta sports fan? I'm just want to ask an
It's
honest
more the
question.
second one. It's more the second one. And
Yeah.
and he was in his own ballpark. Would have been
Right.
would have that.
That's true, but still, Shohei Ohtani, everyone has to know, is the number 1 player in Major League Baseball. It's the hot commodity, not just in Atlanta, but in Major League Baseball, the entire league.
Wasn't he the highest vote getter too? And I mean,
Of course, he was.
Yeah, he was. But
There's no shadow of a doubt.
yeah, I mean, again, I'm not denying that, but I'm seeing it from a point of view as a Braves fan, where the All-Star game was in our ballpark.
I know.
But it wasn't your manager managing it either, though.
Yeah,
And-
which is like,
He manages the Dodgers.
yep,
Right,
Dave Roberts.
right.
So
The one thing I thought was really cool was the winner of the home run derby. He had his dad pitching to him, and his brother was catching for him. Like
Cal Raleigh by name.
that was cool.
He was one of those Seattle Mariners that can produce a lot of offense. Don't forget Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez. There are a few of those guys in the lineup that can never be underestimated
Yeah.
for the Seattle Mariners. And some Tigers fans, I don't want to go down the list of names, but they just take the Mariners lineup for granted. They just kick them to the curb. I mean, come on. The Mariners offense is better than than most people may think.
Yeah.
I've studied
they
them
have a
well.
Pretty good hitting coach.
Yeah, and the
Yeah, they
Tigers
did
coaching
very
staff
good.
just failed to scout the Mariners lineup.
Well, and this was
Last-
the first
last
time a catcher
weekend.
won. That I thought was cool too. It was the first time a catcher won the home run derby.
Exactly. Cal Raleigh is a catcher. That's a fact, Jack.
hmm
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Samira, that's exciting that you got to go to that. That was cool because I remember back in the day, I got to go to the events when it was in Milwaukee, and you don't get that opportunity very often. So it's
Yeah.
cool that when you do to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That's cool. Any other last comments on the All-Star game or the festivities? No, we got it good. Okay, guys.
That's it.
So what we're starting a series that's going to be a 4-week series, and what it's going to be is we're going to preview 2 of the divisions in NFL. So we're going to start with the AFC South and the NFC South, and those are going to be the ones that we're going to hit this week. And we're going to talk about what's changed in the division and what we think prediction wise how the teams are going to do. So we're going to start with the AFC South. So, Mr. Samir, the South has the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans. There's been some changes within those teams this year. Tell us some of the changes and how you see that division playing out this year.
Yeah, so with the Tennessee Titans, it feels like they're officially really in year 2 of their rebuild mode. They do have a new general manager, Mike Berganzi, bought him over from Kansas City. Again, their receiving core, they've got Calvin Ridley, coming off a solid season the last couple of years. They did draft Xavier Restrepo, and of course they got Cam Moore first overall. Defense does have some pieces. I like the D tackle they got a couple years ago out of Texas, Sweat. And then they got the corner from the Chiefs a couple years ago. So there are some pieces there, but ultimately, I think they are a year or 2 away from really making that next step if they build around Cam Moore correctly. I did write an article recently about some coaches that could potentially be on the hot seat. And on that list, I mentioned Brian Callahan as a possible maybe surprise, maybe wild card. And that really depends on a factor of things. It depends on Cam Ward's development. I think I've mentioned the Titans aren't going to be that good this year, but if Cam Ward is developing as a quarterback as the season goes on, I think he'll be safe. But let's say Cam Ward struggles and they have another 4, maybe 5-win season. There is a scenario in which Mike Berganzi may want to bring in a head coach in which he had a say in hiring. So that could be a scenario to look out for. Jacksonville. I really like the Liam Cohen hire. I did like that they made the switch from Trent Baalke to Gladstone, bought him over from the Rams, one of the more well-run front offices in the NFL. The trade up for Travis Hunter, even though I don't necessarily like them giving up a future first for next season, Travis Hunter is a generational talent. And that's just another weapon for Trevor Lawrence to go alongside Brian Thomas. And they have a really good backfield with Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne. It'll be interesting to see how they set that backfield up, who's the starter and who's starting in that backfield. The defense does have some pieces, especially up front, especially with Eric Armstead, Josh Hines-Allen, Trayvon Walker from a couple years ago. They've got Andre Cisco in that over at safety as well. So they've got some pieces there. And I'm assuming the coaching staff is going to be an upgrade as well. So I think they're a team that can improve and definitely a team to look out for. I think if Trevor Lawrence is healthy, having a guy like Liam Cohen there, you look at the job he did in Tampa last year, will be beneficial to him. The team I'm most intrigued by in that division is Indianapolis, because they're an interesting team. They've got some pieces there on both sides of the ball. Jonathan Taylor, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman. They've got Quentin Nelson, who's one of the top interior offensive linemen in the NFL. But I think the wild card for them is going to be whether Anthony Richardson develops as a passer. When Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard regime took a chance on him 4th overall in 2023. He was always considered a raw prospect, but it was really the arm, the athleticism, and really the physical traits that stuck out. And he has shown flashes throughout his first 2 years so far, but he just hasn't been able to put it together. He's had some injuries, including a season-ending one in 23. He's had some struggles with accuracy. There was the incident against, it was Houston, I think, where he took himself out of the game for a little bit, said he was tired, then got benched afterwards for Joe Flacco. It's kind of been a roller coaster ride, and he's in a competition for his job with Daniel Jones. But I also mentioned this in the article. You have a coach and a general manager who basically need to win this year to keep their jobs in all likelihood. And I just don't see them going into a must-win year with Daniel Jones as a starter. I think their jobs are going to depend heavily on how Anthony Richardson develops, and I think they're going to live and die by that. But Houston, I do think there are concerns about their offensive line. There are some concerns about their wide receiver room. Stephon Diggs is in New England. Tank Dell is still out for the season. But I did like the Christian Kirk pickup, and I do like the Jaden Higgins selection in the 2nd round for them. But overall, on paper, their defense is still legit. They still got C.J. Stroud back there, who I think will have a bounce-back year. But it's an interesting division, but I still think Houston will come out on top on paper.
Taylor, your thoughts?
Man, well, like Samir pointed out, the Titans are rebuilding. The Jaguars got some new coaching. Trevor Lawrence is still there. It's still a wait-and-see approach for Jacksonville. Indianapolis, I would say, Joe Flacco's played in the NFL for a long time. He mentioned that his name too. Anthony Richardson. I would take either one of these over Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones cannot play quarterback.
Right. I mean,
on any NFL team, let alone the Giants or the Colts. The Houston Texans, they definitely need an offensive line. Man, that's a tough one. I'm going to say Houston Texans just randomly, but I think the AFC South is just screwed.
Yeah. It's kind of been the same. It's kind of like the NFC South in 2022, where every team 23 is like, every team is like, but it's like on paper, like Houston is Tampa. Like, they've got some holes, they've got some question marks, but on paper, they're clearly the best team in that division.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be interesting with the new regime, like for the Jaguars. The Titans depends on, how, like you said, how well does Cam Ward, transition from college to now NFL? Because let's face it, the NFL plays at a different level, different speed, different tempo. You have different defenses out there. I think that'll be interesting. I think the whole Travis Hunter with Jacksonville, with Liam Cohn, like you said, those are some interesting developments and changes. So I think while they'll be much improved, I don't know how that translates to their record. I think they're still in rebuilding, obviously. The Colts, Daniel Jones, no.
Yeah.
But I still say that, like you say, the Texans, I predict them to win, but I think it won't be. I don't think they'll be as much like last year. Texans were 10-7, and the Jaguars were 4-13. I think the division will be closer than a lot of people think this year, as opposed to being such the polarity that it was last year. So,
yeah. I do expect Jacksonville to be improved, mainly from just a coaching standpoint.
Right. Well, and typically when you finish your previous year as low as they did, your next year, you don't have as tough of a schedule. Now, I don't remember who does the AFC South play this year. Do we know? Did we look that up to see who are they playing this year? Because a lot of times I think that, let's see.
Wait, which team? Texans?
The AFC South. So who do they play this year? Because every year they rotate.
Yeah. So I know the scheduling is kind of different this year. Like wait. Yeah, I think each AFC South team is playing one NFC South team. So like the Texans are playing the Bucks, we're playing the Colts in Germany. And let me see.
It says the schedule includes divisional games, matchups against the AFC West and the NFC West.
And the Jaguars are playing the Panthers. I know that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
I think the Indianapolis Colts should be in the AFC North. I think at least some of those divisions need to be rearranged.
Yeah.
Geographically.
Yeah, I mean NFC East, you can make an argument that maybe Dallas shouldn't be in the NFC East given the geographical alignment.
Right. They still their rivalry with what was the Washington Redskins is over. The Washington Commanders are the now, of course. So the past is the past, the present is the present. So I'd say that old rivalry is over.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I feel like all the teams in the NFC East genuinely don't like each other.
Right.
So I wouldn't say it's over.
So the Texans, to give you an idea, their schedule, week 1 is at the Rams. Week 2 is home against the Buccaneers. Week 3 at the Jaguars. 4 against the Titans. 5 at the Ravens. Week 6 is their bye. Week 7 is at Seahawks. Week 8 is against the 49ers. Week 9 is against the Broncos. Week 10 is against the Jaguars. 11 is at the Titans. Week 12 is against the Bills. Week 13 is at the Colts. Week 14 is at the Chiefs. Week 15 is the Cardinals. Week 16 is the Raiders. Week 17 at Chargers. And week 18 is the Colts. For me, that sounds like kind of a could be a.
Yeah, that's not an easy schedule for the Texans at all.
Challenging, in other words.
Yeah.
But on the other flip side of it is, if you want to win, you've got to win the tough games too. So
got to earn it.
Yep, you got to earn it. So the Colts schedule. They play week 1 against the Dolphins, week 2 against the Broncos, week 3 at the Titans, week 4 at the Rams, week 5 the Raiders, week 6 the Cardinals, week 7 at Chargers, week 8 Titans, week 9 at the Steelers. Week 10 is the Falcons in Berlin. Week 11 then is their bye. Week 12 is at the Chiefs. Week 13 Texans, week 14 at Jaguars, week 15 at Seahawks, week 16 the 49ers, week 17 Jaguars, and week 18 at the Texans. So they don't have it easy. I don't think they have quite as hard as I don't know. I mean, anytime you're going to go to Seattle, the Tech, that's kind of always tough, but
yeah. That's why I feel like while neither team really stands out, it's kind of like, again, the NFC South in 22 and 23, where you're picking Tampa just based off their roster on paper.
So the Jaguars, their week 1 is versus the Panthers. Week 2 is at the Bengals. Week 3 is Texans. Week 4 is at the 49ers. Week 5 is the Chiefs. Week 6 is the Seahawks. Week 7 is the Rams in London. Week 8 is a bye. Week 9 is at the Raiders. 10 at Texans. 11 is Chargers. 12 at Cardinals. 13 at Titans. 14 the Colts. Week 15 the Jets. Week 16 at the Broncos. Week 17 at the Colts, and week 18 versus the Titans. See, now I don't know if that's as tough.
Yeah. For who?
You know.
Which you said Titans?
That was the Jaguars.
Oh, Jaguars. My apologies.
That's okay. Titans will be next. They'll be the last. But
yeah,
I think, to the Jaguars' credit, I think playing the Chiefs at home helps. Playing the Seahawks at home is, I think always going on the road to like Seahawks, because that's a lot of travel. So remember, they play the Chiefs at home, the Seahawks, and then they go across the seas to London to play the Rams. I just think there are some stadiums that are a lot tougher to play in, and one of them is Seahawks, whether they have a good team or not. But there's always that that 12th man mentality up there. As far as the Titans' schedule, week 1 is at the Broncos. Week 2 is versus the Rams. 3 is the Colts. 4 is at Texans. 5 is at Cardinals. 6 is at Raiders. 7 is Patriots. 8 is at the Colts. Week 9 is the Chargers. Week 10 is their bye. Week 11 is the Texans. 12 is Seahawks. 13 is Jaguars. 14 is at the Browns. 15 is at the 49ers. 16 is the Chiefs. 17 is the Saints. And week 18 is at the Jaguars. Yeah, that's not quite as difficult either, I don't think.
Yeah.
I think I really look at the tough games against the teams that I think are going to be tough. And are you playing them on your home field or are you playing them away? And if you're playing them away, that makes it that much harder, I think. We still think, even though we think Houston's got one of the tougher schedules, we still think Houston's going to take it.
Yeah. I just feel like they're still the most talented team in that division. And I think when it's all said and done, that talent is going to get them over the hump in regards to winning that division.
Okay. So they're saying that Tennessee's strength of schedule is the easiest in the division and 4th easiest in the entire league. The Titans are just one of 3 teams facing a 3-game road trip. Interesting. And Tennessee and New Orleans are the only 2 teams without an international game or a prime time spotlight. That's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we did the AFC, so let's do the NFC South. And that would be the Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. This time, Taylor, you want to talk about what's new with those 4 teams? Or
I'll pass right now.
Pass? Okay. Samir, since I know this is up your wheelhouse with the Falcons being in there, go for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can make the case that every team in the NFC South improved this offseason in some capacity except for the Saints. I think seems like the Saints are finally enough, like no more kicking the can down the road, no more trying to contend with an aging roster. It seems like they're finally starting to turn the page and rebuild. They bought in Kellen Moore. And I actually do like their first round draft pick with Kelvin Banks. When you're starting a rebuild in the NFL, you rebuild from the inside out. So offensive line, defensive line. Then you kind of go out and get your skill position players. I feel like that's kind of the way to do it. Um, but then at quarterback, they've got Spencer Rattler, who was all right last year, but didn't really stand out. They spent an early second round pick on Tyler Shuck, 26-year-old, had a couple injuries, never really had that great of a season in college, and they went ahead and spent early second on him. It's funny, the Saints fans last year made fun of us for taking Penix, who was far more talented his last 2 years in college than Shuck was at any point, and even younger of a prospect by just a year, nonetheless. And then they go around and do that. But with that being said, Saints are finally in rebuild mode, and we'll see where they end up going there. Carolina, I do like what Carolina did this offseason, especially in the draft. Getting a guy like Ted McMillan at 8, even though some say they maybe should have went and got defensive player like Jalen Walker there. They got Nick Swartz in the second out of Texas A&M. Then they get Princely from Ole Miss. So that kind of headline their draft. I like what they did there. And overall, though, I still think they are maybe another year away. I do think they'll improve. Maybe they'll be 7-10, possibly 8-9 if things go really well. I do expect Bryce Young to continue to develop and take strides, kind of like what he did towards the second half of last season after he came back from being benched. And I think overall, that's just a testament to the difference that coaching can make. You go from a guy like Frank Reich and that coaching staff they had his rookie year, that terrible offensive line, no weapons, got sacked like 60 times, and then gets benched after 2 games, comes back and looks like a completely different quarterback. So we'll see whether or not he builds off of that this season. Tampa Bay, they've won it 4 years in a row. I think their offense is going to be as good, if not better, on paper than last year, especially when you add Emeka Egbuka to that already talented wide receiver room. The only question mark for them is their secondary, because outside of Antoine Winfield and maybe Jamel Dean, there's not really much there. So I'm surprised they didn't go that route or address it further in the draft. But, I mean, look, they've won it 4 times in a row. They got a Super Bowl the year before that. And it's their division until someone else wins it. And they did notably extended Todd Bowles and Jason Licht. Jason Licht, in my opinion, is one of the more underrated general managers in the NFL. Think about how good of a job he's done, especially coming out of the transitioning from the Brady era. There is a lot of question marks under center. What's that going to look like? There is a lot of uncertainty around Baker Mayfield and his future as an NFL quarterback when he had first signed there. And that signing ended up being an absolute hit, and their playoff window is wide open again. And last but not least, Atlanta. You could argue that they could have won this division last year and in 2023, but they're just a team that just seemingly can't get out of their own way. Whether it be a couple of bad draft classes in 2021, some interesting draft strategies, that Kirk Cousins contract. They're just, in the way it was handled, they just seemingly cannot get out of their own way. They have the talent on paper to win the division. I really like our draft class, especially with Jalen Walker. I like picking Xavier Watson III. And there are a lot of mixed feelings about the big trade up for James Pierce Jr. I like it and I don't like it at the same time. I like it because James Pierce, he was one of the he was one of the better rated prospects going into that draft and was actually considered a top 10 pick in some mocks earlier in the fall, but there were some rumored character concerns that caused him to slip in the draft. We went and take that chance on him. But I feel like Jalen Walker was a steal at 15. I did not even think he would be there. And I know there's a lot of hype around this draft class and the 4 draft picks we spent on defense: Walker, Pierce, Xavier Watson, Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma. But I think whether or not that defense takes the next step is going to depend largely on the guys that were already here and that we've drafted the past couple of years. Like we have Braylon Trice coming back from an ACL injury. I wouldn't expect much from him this year considering he is a rookie and it usually takes a full year to rehab from that injury. You've got Ruka Rororo, second-round pick out of Clemson. We took him over Braden Fisk, who was on the board then. So some consider that a reach. He's going to be stepping in, replacing Grady Jarrett. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. Brandon Dorlus, a guy we went and took in the 4th round, 24. I think he's going to get more playing time this year. Same with Zach Harrison, a guy we got out of Ohio State. He was productive outside later on. Towards the end of 2023, they moved him inside. Didn't get a lot of playing time, even though, in my opinion, he should have. But it seems like they're moving him back outside. So it's going to depend on guys like that developing and taking that next step. And it's also going to depend on whether or not Jeff Ulbrich can put them in a position to succeed. Because last year we had Jimmy Lake, who was in over his head. First time being an NFL defensive coordinator, didn't know what he was doing, gets fired. We bring back Jeff Ulbrich, who was a solid linebackers coach when he was here years ago under Dan Quinn. Did a solid job as a defensive coordinator with the Jets, but when he took over as a head coach, while overseeing the defense, they kind of fell apart. So we'll see what happens there. But offensively, I am confident in Michael Penix Jr. I would say cautiously optimistic. Like when you watch him those last 3 games, he has the poise, he can read a defense, and he's got the arm. The only question I have for him is his accuracy. And I think that will improve this year, especially with more timing and more reps with the ones. And ultimately, I think that's what it's going to come down to. Also, coaching. As I mentioned, can the coaching staff put this team in a position to succeed? Last year, there were some lapses that were related to the coaching staff. For example, as I mentioned in my article, Raheem Morris was one of my 6 head coaches on the hot seat this season. And we were 6-3, collapsed, finished 8-9, and out of the playoffs. And that's due to some missteps he took. For example, the mishandling of the injury to Kirk Cousins. Yeah, Kirk was not upfront about his shoulder injury, knowing that once Penix came in, he wasn't coming out. But at the same time, if you're the head coach, you're the offensive coordinator, you're the quarterback's coach, you can't see that this guy's hurt or that this guy's not giving you the best chance to win, and you've got a top 10 pick on the sidelines waiting right there. Of course, we all know the issues with clock management against Washington. Didn't take that time out. Seems like the defense, which was his calling card, at times, some games just looked like they didn't even show up. Like that last game against Carolina when Bryce Young came into our house with the season on the line and hung 44 on us. Or when we end up losing to a 2-7 Saints team that had just fired their coach. There were some breakdowns in the secondary there, which was a secondary with 3 All-Pros in it: AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates, and last year Justin Simmons. So we'll see what happens there, but it is a very consequential season for the Falcons, probably the most we've had in the last decade or so, because this can go 2 ways. The talent is there to make a run and challenge Tampa for the division. You've got Michael Penix progressing as a quarterback, certifying himself as the quarterback of the future. Drake London, Bijan Robinson have good years again. Offensive line is steady as it's been the last few years. and the young players on defense can contribute. Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. are as advertised, and we end up meeting our expectations and making the playoffs. Or this can go a different way. The defense looks bad. Penix doesn't progress, which I'm not really all that concerned about him. Or we just look flat at times and we end up missing the playoffs again. It's kind of known that for anyone who follows this team, if they don't make the playoffs this year, the coach and the general manager are getting fired. The general manager, especially considering this is his 5th year and he has yet to have a winning season or make the playoffs. So I feel like it's a 2-team race between Tampa and Atlanta. And as much as I want to say Atlanta, I feel like it can really go either way.
Okay. Taylor, your thoughts on the NFC South?
Man, that's another tough one. Got the Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are still the Carolina Panthers for now. The Saints, they still have some good players on their roster. The Buccaneers and Falcons, the Falcons are trying to cut back on their choking, while the Buccaneers are still holding the NFC South crown. And I just think it's going to be a close one. I still think Tampa Bay is going to take the division.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable because, again, as I mentioned before, you could argue that we had a good chance at winning it last year and the year before, but we just can't get out of our own way.
Right.
So to give you an idea, the Falcons' schedule this year: Week 1 against the Buccaneers, 2 at the Vikings, 3 at the Panthers, 4 versus the Commanders, an early Week 5 bye, 6 against the Bills, Week 7 at the 49ers, Week 8 the Dolphins, Week 9 at Patriots, Week 10 Colts in Berlin. And then there is not a bye right after that. They come back home Week 11 and play the Panthers. Then they go back on the road Week 12 to play the Saints. Week 13 at the Jets. Week 14, the Seahawks. Week 15 at Buccaneers. Week 16 at Cardinals. And then they have 2 home games. Week 17, the Rams. And Week 18, the Saints.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's not to the extent of last year, but I think those first 6 games are definitely tough. Like if we get out of those first 6 games at 3-3, I am going to feel better about the rest of that season because Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Carolina, New Orleans, and the Jets are all very gettable ones for the Falcons. I do like the fact that that first game against Tampa is at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You open at home again against your division rival. That's a good time to, make a statement to a team that you swept last year. And both of those games really could have gone either way. So I feel like if you get a win week 1, you would be in a better position because I don't see us winning their home opener in Minnesota. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, like there is with Michael Penix. There is a lot of uncertainty surrounding J.J. McCarthy. But when it comes to just the coaching matchup between Kevin O'Connell and the way he just seemingly has a way with quarterbacks, you look at what he did with Sam Darnold last year. He was winning games a couple years ago with Josh Dobbs. He just seems to have a way with quarterbacks, and with J.J. McCarthy, with that coaching and those weapons, I think he'll be fine. So I just don't see us beating Minnesota again in that environment week 2 at their home opener. Carolina is another gettable one. Washington, hot take. I think we end up stealing that one because remember last year we had them at their place last year. If Raheem Morris calls that timeout, we're able to get maybe 10, 15 more yards. We end up kicking a 40-yard field goal instead of a 55-yard field goal. And I think we win that game and beat Carolina the next week. So, but I don't see us beating Buffalo. I just don't see that happening. San Francisco's another tough one. I know a lot of people aren't high on them, but they are going to be healthier this year, and you just can't bet against a Kyle Shanahan-led team. So if we get out of there at 3-3, I'll feel good about the rest of the season.
Yep. Okay, next team, Carolina Panthers schedule. Week 1 at the Jaguars, Week 2 at Cardinals, Week 3 Falcons, Week 4 at Patriots, Week 5 Dolphins, Week 6 Cowboys, Week 7 at the Jets, Week 8 the Bills, Week 9 at the Packers, Week 10 the Saints, Week 11 at Falcons, Week 12 at the 49ers, Week 13 the Rams, and then a late Week 14 bye. 15 at the Saints, 16 the Buccaneers, 17 the Seahawks, and Week 18 at the Buccaneers. You know, I would say the Panthers are probably one of the teams that have the most to prove because they've been trying to improve every year lately. And with their three of their first four games on the road with matchups against quarterbacks Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray, and Drake May in the road. They will provide an early test for the defense that underwent a makeover this year, setting the record for most points allowed in a single season last year. So I think it'll be interesting. I think they'll be improved, but it depends a lot on Bryce Young. Can he build on the progress that he displayed at the back half of last year or not? Thoughts on the Panthers, guys?
I mean, yeah.
I still think the Panthers are going to be in the bottom cellar in the NFC South.
Below the Saints?
I thought I was talking about the Carolina Panthers. That's what Candy asked us.
No, like you think they'll be below the Saints?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Because the Saints still have good players, like I pointed out.
Yeah. I mean, they do, but I just feel like they're getting older. It's
Yeah,
not
they are.
rosters. Yeah. And then I guess you could say that Kellen Moore is probably an upgrade from Dennis Allen. But I mean, is that really saying much? Dennis Allen was horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and the quarterback, I don't know. Tyler Show, do you think he's gonna, with Derek Carr's retirement, do you think? I don't know. You think Tyler can do it?
I don't know, but I just feel like with Bryce Young, Dave Canales, and the way their offense looked at the end of last year, and you add a Ted McMillan to the equation already, I just like their offensive foundation right now over the Saints because you've got Alvin Kamara, who's, while still good, he's getting up there now. Chris Olave can't stay healthy. Rashid Shaheed is coming off a season-ending injury. But it seems like they are rebuilding that offensive line, which is wait, did you say something?
No.
Oh. But it seems like they are rebuilding that offensive line, which is, something you always – which is, I think, where you start when you are rebuilding a team in the NFL. You start on the inside out. So credit to them for that. But I think they're going to be a bottom 5 team in the entire NFL this year. I'm just not sold on them.
So the Saints, their schedule. Week 1 is at home versus the Cardinals. Week 2 is the 49ers. Week 3 at Seahawks. Week 4 at Bills. Week 5, the Giants. 6, the Patriots. 7 at Bears. 8, the Buccaneers. Week 9 at Rams. 10 at Panthers. Week 11 is their bye. Week 12 is the Falcons. Week 13 at Dolphins. Week 14 at Buccaneers. Week 15 the Panthers. Week 16 the Jets. 17 at the Titans. And week 18 at the Falcons. You know, I think it'll be really interesting to see. I think Kellen Moore is a very good offensive minded. Now, whether that translates to a good head coach, and with the talent or lack thereof that I think New Orleans has, I don't see them doing a whole lot this year. I just don't. I think the Panthers will easily take them over. I think the Panthers, if we watch the last half of last season, I think the Panthers were much improved. And I only think that'll keep going up. I don't think the Saints are going to, in my opinion, I don't think they're going to do well this year.
No. I don't think either team's going to do well this year either.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it'll be a two-team race between us and Tampa. And while the bias in me, I'm going to give Atlanta the edge barely, because it just feels like with the draft they had, they finally got it right. Like, they finally addressed the main thing that's hurt them for the past 12, 13 years, and that's been the pass rush. It's not been the quarterback. I think it's been the pass rush more than it has been quarterback play, you could argue. But if Michael Penix is what we think he is, and if we can get a combined maybe 10.5, 11 sacks from Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., because there is usually a year or so learning curve for defensive ends in the NFL. And the secondary is as advertised with Jesse Bates, A.J. Terrell. Now you got Xavier Watts in the equation, possibly Billy Bowman at nickel. I think, and then you replace you add Divine Diablo, who we have right now, and Troy Anderson has the speed, athleticism, but just can't seem to put it all together. So that's really where my question mark is with this team, because you've got Caden Ellis, but our inside linebacker room outside of that is a big question mark. Then another thing that concerns me about the Falcons is our interior D-line. We did lose Grady Jarrett, and while he wasn't a $20 million a year defensive tackle anymore, he was still serviceable and he was still productive, especially against the run, I feel like. So those are big shoes for guys like Ruka Rororo, Brandon Dorless to fill. You got David Onyemata still in the – so that's where my question mark is on defense with the Falcons. And then at center – something a lot of people aren't talking about. We lost Drew Dahlman, who was one of the best run blocking centers in the NFL. And he played a big role in facilitating the run game we've had the last couple of years with Tyler Algier and eventually Bijan Robinson in the fold. And now Ryan Neuzil comes in, and he was okay in the 7 or 8 starts last year, but the issue was he was the most penalized center in the NFL and not as good of a run blocker as Drew Dahlman was. So we'll see what happens there. So it's really center, and interior D-line, and coaching. Those are my things. And, of course, as I mentioned, whether or not the young players on defense we already had in the building take that next step. So those are the things that, in my opinion, will determine who wins the NFC South. If 2 of those things go our way, I think we win it. But if not, and it's still the same old that we've seen the last 7 years, then it's going to be Tampa again.
So JD thinks the Falcons could win the division. He expects the Panthers to be close and competitive, but not quite there yet. Winner of the division will be 10-7. Second will be 9-8. Third will be 7-10. Saints will be 6-11. So really, the whole division will only be separated by 4 games. I'm going to quick read off to you the Buccaneers' schedule. Week 1 is at the Falcons. Week 2 is at Texans. Week 3 is the Jets. Week 4 is the Eagles. Week 5 is at Seahawks. Week 6 is the 49ers. Week 7 is at the Lions. Week 8 is at the Saints. Week 9, almost perfectly placed there, is their bye. Week 10 is the Patriots. 11 is at the Bills. 12 at the Rams. 13 is the Cardinals. 14 is the Saints. 15 is the Falcons. 16 is at Panthers. 17 is at Dolphins. And week 18 is Panthers. The one things I will say about that, the dates with Houston, Philadelphia, Detroit all land within the first 7 weeks. If they're searching for tests, they won't have to wait long. The other thing I will say is they're going to rack up their air miles because Tampa Bay will fly to the West Coast twice in 2025, and both games will present challenges. I think they have a tough, that sounds to me like a very tough schedule. Anytime you're going to play the Super Bowl champions, the Eagles, you're going to play at Seattle, at the Lions. The Lions have been playing good as of late. I think their toughest test is obviously going to be their games before the bye. If they can manage to do pretty well in that, then yes, they have a chance to take the division, but I think that is a tough schedule for them. Any thoughts on their schedule?
Well, yeah, the Eagles, you cannot beat them. The Lions, sure, they're a good team too. They're still trying to work on ball security and whatnot. They no longer have Ben Johnson. They have John Morton as their offensive coordinator, and he's trying to address the ball security or lack thereof. The other good teams that the Buccaneers are trying to face, they'll be a challenge. But I would say, oh man, that's a tough one. I'd still say the Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South. Sorry, Samir, but I think the Buccaneers are going to go 10-7.
I mean, that's understandable. I feel like if you want respect, you got to earn it. And, we look good on paper, but okay, now what? We got to go
competition, prove it on the field.
I mean, we've looked good on paper the last couple years and haven't done anything with it. So
can't stand the NFL backloading division rivals like they do with the Steelers and Ravens. Same teams. Well, guys, unless you guys have anything more to add about the NFC South, I think it's time to go to my town.
All right.
Taylor, go ahead. Go for it.
So the Tigers, before their All-Star break last weekend, got swept by the Seattle Mariners. They got routed the first 2 games, not only because of their bullpen, their terrible bullpen, but their lack of coaching, lack of scouting by their coaching staff, minus AJ Hinch. They made some adjustments before Sunday's 8-4 loss to the Seattle Mariners. They just kept Tommy Canley just kept throwing too many change-ups, but the Tigers still have the best record in all of Major League Baseball, but just barely. But for the Lions, they of course put some players on the PUP. The biggest surprise, Taylor Decker being put on there, but Aleem McNeil, Malcolm Rodriguez, understandably have to be put on the PUP and other things like that. The Red Wings, they got John Gibson. Pistons, they got new players like Duncan Robinson. Football's coming up. Also college football, the Michigan and Michigan Wolverines and Michigan State Spartans. The Wolverines are going to have they finally have a quarterback, Bryce Underwood. The Michigan State Spartans, they still have work to do, but man, I can't wait for that MLB non-waiver trade deadline to see what the Tigers front office, including Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg and the owner Chris Ilitch, have in mind, because they got to get rid of some of their players that suck, let alone Trey Sweeney and Carlos Hernandez or something like that. They need bullpen help, period. They need a catcher to replace Jake Rogers. They need 2 starting pitchers to replace Jack Flaherty and Jackson Jobe, who is out for the rest of the season. Jack Flaherty has been struggling out there. Plus, they need, of course, Alex Bregman and some more offense. Because Trey Sweeney's definitely not going to be the answer, whichever position he plays, especially shortstop. Javier Baez has been improving, of course. Kerry Carpenter, can't wait for him to return from the IL, of course. But I'm just looking for Tarek Skubal to make some adjustments. The All-Star break and at least give the Tigers some time to refocus and rethink and redo whatever. But they need bullpen help. They need a lot of stuff. Catcher, 2 starting pitchers, bullpen help, a bat, Alex Bregman. They need like almost everything. That's it.
Okay. Samir, what's happening in your town?
Yeah, so Atlanta Falcons training camp starts next week, next Thursday. That's when everyone's going to be there, and we're going to get a good look at how this team is going to be set up going into the season. Some competitions to watch out for. One that no one's talking about. It's going to happen at kicker. Younghoe Koo has struggled the last couple of years. After he hit that game-winning 58, 59-yard field goal against New Orleans week 4, he just seemed to struggle. Missed a lot of field goals that he would usually make. And I think, as we know in the NFL, the life leash a kicker has is pretty short because every team is in need of kickers. Every team is looking for kickers. So they did sign Lenny Krieg from Germany. And notably, they gave him a 3-year deal. So it seems like Raheem Morris has acknowledged it. Special teams coach Marquise Williams has acknowledged it. There will be a competition at that position. So if Koo wins it, which it seems like he's the favorite to do so, given that his hip is better now, seems like Krieg will just be on the practice squad. Another one is at nickel. They did bring back D. Alford, who definitely struggled in coverage last season, got penalized a lot, gave up a lot of touchdowns. But it seems like he's going to be more of a depth piece this year, and he is going to be behind Clark Phillips, who's back, 3rd-year corner. And then it seems like right now the coaching staff has spoken very highly of Billy Bowman. He was a safety at Oklahoma, but he was a listed safety at Oklahoma, but played a lot of nickel as well. And it seems like that is the plan for him here. So it seems like if there is a favorite to win that job, I would say it's Billy Bowman. With the Hawks, Summer League ball has started. They are 4-0. Asa Newell has shown some signs of a guy that can be a solid player in the NBA, given that it is Summer League and, it's not really a clear picture, but the signs are encouraging. Kobe Buffkin has been very underwhelming, to say the least. That's a guy we were hoping to be our backup point guard, 1st-round pick from a couple years ago. Unfortunately for him, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but it seems like this might be his shot to cement himself, or maybe he'll be part of a trade deal in the near future. So with the Atlanta Braves, they did win a series in St. Louis against the Cardinals before the All-Star break. I think for anyone who's been paying attention knows that this season has been an absolute disaster on the field for the team. The only bright spots have been Ronald Acuna Jr., Drake Baldwin, and an All-Star Week, which was an absolute hit. From the festivities, the home run derby, to the game itself, it was an absolute hit. They're 11 games under 500. Given the state of the National League East and the National League wild card in general and the teams that are in front of us, The Braves, it seems like, are all signs point to the Braves missing the playoffs for the first time since 2017 when Truist Park first opened. Freddie Freeman was playing a little bit of third base. Matt Adams was at first. We had Bartolo Colon in our rotation, and Ozzy Albies was a rookie. It'll be interesting to see what they do at the deadline. Double A has already stated that, or Alex Anthopoulos has already stated that they are not going to move any players who are locked in after 25. So it doesn't seem like Ozzy's going anywhere. Michael Harris, with how bad he's been at the plate, still doesn't seem like he's going anywhere. Austin Riley. So it seems like that core is staying together. But I would definitely look out for Marcelo Zuna to get moved. He's got an expiring contract, and if the team wants to add a DH, even though he has been underwhelming this year with his hip due to his hip injury, that could be a guy they move. Raisel Iglesias, he was our closer the last couple of years, hadn't been very good. Moved into a setup role now, has been a little better. Did close the last couple of games in St. Louis, so we'll see what happens there. That's another guy I'd look at to get moved. Possibly Dylan Lee, another reliever we could get something in return for. And a wild card to look out for. If they do end up moving a player who is signed past this season, it would be Sean Murphy. Depending on what they can get back for him, if they can get a good prospect or two back for Sean Murphy, and find a way to have Drake Baldwin in the lineup behind the plate every day, that's something they could possibly do. But my guess is they will not be moving Sean Murphy. And Austin Riley also got hurt right before the All-Star break. So Nacho Alvarez has been playing third, 22 years old. Has looked okay so far for the small handful of games he's played. And most notably, the MLB draft was last week. And for the first time since 2019, the Braves took a position player in the first round. Tate Southesine, out of a prep shortstop of a high school in Nevada. And then they end up getting Alex Lodis, another shortstop out of Florida State. They go shortstop again in the third round in Cody Miller before getting a pitcher, Briggs McKenzie. So all four of them have been signed. They've also signed 4 more of their draft picks. So 8 draft picks have been signed. They've got to sign 12 more. So it's going to be interesting to see how they distribute the money from then on. And that's it for my town.
Candy. Samir just finished.
Yep. Nope. What I was going to say, my town. So I first want to say kudos to the Pittsburgh Steelers for signing and agreeing with TJ Watt on a historic three-year, $123 million extension. He has been the face of your defense, and kudos for you for recognizing that and giving him the extension. Now, as opposed to my town, the Brewers are notorious for being up at the top during the regular season. They're a little bit behind the Cubs. Question is, will they overtake the Cubs or not? They got a little bit of big pitching boost right before the All-Star break with Woodruff coming back, pitching his first time in almost 2 years, it seems. It was like a long, long, long time. Obviously, we have pitching sensation, the Mize, the kid that had brought a lot of controversy, whether he should be making the All-Star game or not, because he's only pitched in 5 games. My response to that was there were 12 other players that turned them down, so he was not the first on their list to take. And kudos to him for giving him the opportunity. He's doing really well. Kudos to Freddie Peralta and Trevor McGill, because they paid tribute in the All-Star game to Bob Uecker. And I thought that was cool when they all stood up and they put up those cards, and it says "I stand up for cancer for," and Freddie Peralta put Bob Uecker on his. If you don't know, he was the voice of the Brewers for many, many years. He passed away earlier in January from cancer. So, as far as the Milwaukee Bucks, in what was a very puzzling movement when they let Dame Lillard go. If you think about it, though, it makes sense because they had to. He was injured in the playoffs, so he's not going to play any of next year. They want to diversify stretch out some of the money that they owe him, but they need players now because they know Giannis is on. He's the face of the franchise now, but how many more years does he have? And we want another title. So they really had no choice. As much as everybody was shocked and surprised, they had to do something because, like I said, they want. And kudos to Dame because he's actually going to go back to. He's returning to the Blazers on a reported 3-year, $42 million deal, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he's still getting paid by the Bucks too. So he's going to get paid by the Bucks and the Blazers, and that's really, I mean, that's where his kids live. That's where his home is. So kudos to him. As far as, let's see, the Packers start their training camp next week too. The only difference will be is Jordan Love is now wearing a little piece of jewelry. He actually got married since the last time he took the field. So
congratulations to him.
Congratulations to him and good luck to him. The one last thing I do want to say is rest in peace to ex-Eagles special teams ace Brahman, who died of a rare form of cancer at the age of 38. He was a key special teams player for the Philadelphia Eagles' first Super Bowl championship team. He was diagnosed earlier this year and had multiple surgeries in recent months in an attempt to treat the illness. He actually passed away this morning. There was a statement issued by the team. We are deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Brian Brahman. The team said during his 4 seasons in Philadelphia, Brian was a loyal teammate, a supporter of the community, and a valuable member of the Super Bowl winning team. More importantly, he was a devoted father who passionately loved his family and everyone around him. We extend our deepest condolences to Brian's family and all who are grieving the loss at this time. He was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Texans in 2011. He played 7 seasons in the NFL. He spent his first 3 in Houston, the last 4 in Philadelphia. I believe he was having problems paying for like medical treatment, and I want to say like JJ Watt even put money towards his medical treatment and stuff like that. So rest in peace, and my prayers and thoughts go out to your friends and family and all of your teammates that are mourning your loss. With that being said, let's tell everybody how they can get a hold of us. I'm going to first go because I should have done this a while ago. South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by my husband, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about media and how it has changed over his 40 years in the business. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or sponsor one show or all of our shows, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. If you have show ideas or want to be a guest, you can always email me at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Monday nights we talk baseball, Tuesday nights we talk football, Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange, and Thursday nights on Fire Up. You never know what topics we're going to put into place. Although I will say we did the AFC and the NFC South this week. I think next week let's do the NFC and AFC East next week. So we're going to keep that going and ending with right before the actual season, the preseason starts. But I like that topic.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to put in my little spiel. The only other thing I will say is Tuesday nights at 7:30. I am a member of the Chicks podcast. It's 3 chicks and a pod, or Chicks and Salsa, and it's 3 or 4 chicks, and we talk sports. So check out our podcast as well. Taylor, how do people find you or get a hold of you?
I am the creator of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, all in one word. Also, listen to it in audio form on Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music /Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, and Gio7. Also, on social media, follow it on X, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page.
Okay, Samir, how can people find you?
Just mentioned below, you can find me on Twitter, X at ATL_Samir2401. I post a lot of my articles there. I post Atlanta sports content there in general. So you can find me there for that. You can also find me on Instagram at Samir.SidelineNet. I'm going to be posting some clips of the show on here as well. And you can find me on Fired Up on Thursday night.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, guys, great broadcast. I hope everybody enjoys back to the regular programming now that Major League Baseball had their All-Star game. College football is starting to ramp up. The NFL teams, a lot of them are starting training camps next week. I'm looking forward to it, even though I'm not back in my hometown and everybody knows that I'm from Green Bay. I'm not Green Bay, but Wisconsin. I love their tradition. I love the tradition where they have the players ride the kids' bikes from their locker room to the field. That's cool, and it's going to continue. The one thing that did change over this NFL offseason too for them is their president, Mark Murphy, retired. So they have a new president. So with that being said, I want everybody to have a great weekend. Enjoy the sports that are happening. We're talking about possibly catching a Marlins game on Saturday night. So we'll see. So with that being said,
Lions and Packers are a good rivalry. They have been a long time, by the way.
Yes, they have. They have. With that being said, everybody have a great week, and we look forward to you tuning in next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Thank you.
Ta-ta.